And I think that we have to actually talk about things. A big thing where I see is from like war, either in Afghanistan or in a relationship, war happens when people don't talk. Think of a marriage, I can attest to that. Relationships and marriage, um, that if we don't talk and actually address these things, that burden, that pain is going to be there, and it's going to, it'll stay, and eventually it's going to come back up in future arguments. So if we can actually just be vulnerable with each other and be like, it's okay. Like, to me, vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength. And I think we should be able to just actually open up to each other and don't worry about if people judge you. It's just, you're, as long as it helps you, I think we should do that.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like people don't consider that enough, right? Their personal relationship with the pain, and they try and avoid it. And almost always, if not always, it comes back stronger and worse than if they just kind of embrace it, right? Deal with it and use it to alter them for the good.
Exactly. I think, especially no one wants to face it, but if you face it, you could be like life changing and actually use it to like better yourself. A big thing for me, it's, I asked when I talk to like family members and people that are actually in pain, and I'll ask them something, and I was like, pain is a teacher. What is it teaching you? If you think of change your perspective, you can actually use it to actually empower yourself and get stronger, be better.
Mm.
Um, but people just, they see it as a weakness, but it's really not.
Yeah, I love that. I think encouraging people to use it to find out what it's teaching them is a really good reflection point. So, like for you, do you often sit and either journal or go through the process of thinking like, hey, this is an experience that really sucked for whatever reason?
It was actually through my book. Honestly, I don't journal. I don't do anything like that. Sometimes I'll reflect, but actually, when I was going through just my pain in general, I'm facing everything head on, from my deployments to relationships, like what I did wrong. We have to be accountable for our actions. Like people say that, I did everything right. Well, why did this happen then? Obviously something's wrong. It's not necessarily you. It could be a relationship situation. But a self-reflection is a big part of growth. And you have to take that hard look, like what did I do wrong? What did I do right? Um, and that's the hard part, is being accountable for like your own actions.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people tend to avoid because it's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to, sit in that conversation where you feel like, man, I screwed up. We try and avoid that as much as possible.
Exactly. I think, for like when I was writing my book, I was going through everything from my deployments to the psychological trauma to, my divorce and that story, to in my last relationship. What did I do right? I felt like I was doing everything right, but there's part of it I wasn't. And I had to actually look in the mirror and be like, okay, yeah, I could have done better on this aspect, but actually growing from that and knowing now, I'm just like, okay, it just empowered me to be a better person just for the world to see.
Yeah. How much of it is forgiveness?
A lot of it's forgiveness. You think about it, the hardest part is forgiving yourself for something that happened. But, like with childhood trauma, it's, a lot of it's not your fault when you actually look at it, especially like when my mom left when I was 3 and I thought it was my fault. But actually looking back, it's like, well, that's their actions, not, doesn't reflect mine, and I think if we forgive ourselves and don't be so hard on ourselves, the world is cruel as it is, life's unfair. The last person you should be hard on is yourself if you're not trying to grow.
Yeah. Because I think that there's a certain amount of self-inflicted hardship you should have, right?